Imagine you're in the middle of your week and your phone lights up. He's sent you something, not a text asking what you're doing, but a voice note about something he saw that reminded him of a conversation you had 3 weeks ago. He remembered. He brought it back, and in that moment, something inside you settles just a little. Because for once it feels like you're not chasing. It feels like he's thinking about you when you're not even in the room. But here's what I need you to hear right now. You're not imagining this difference. You're not being paranoid about the men who don't do this. The way you can feel the difference between a man who is actually investing and a man who is keeping you around for convenience. That intuition is real. That's not you being too sensitive. That's you reading the truth beneath the surface. And if you've spent years, maybe even decades, learning to trust your gut, to survive on half-truths, to make peace with men who couldn't quite meet you where you stand, then I want you to know. This video is for the part of you that's tired of guessing. Some men come to love. Some men come to take. Some men come to avoid being alone. And some men, the ones worth your time, they come consistently, deliberately, with actions that line up with their words, day after day after day. This isn't to make you cynical, it's to make you discerning. It's to teach you the difference between a man who says he's falling for you and a man who shows it in ways that can't be faked, can't be performed, can't be undone with a disappearing act 3 months later. Before we go deeper into this, I want to ask you something. What if this video lands for you? If someone explains what you've been sensing all along, will you like it? Will you take 30 seconds and comment below with one word? What was the sign that made you finally realize? The rest of our community is listening. They're in the same confusion you're in. Your voice matters. And if this resonates deeply, share it with a woman you love who deserves to see the difference between a man performing and a man arriving. Subscribe so you don't miss the videos that teach you discernment instead of desperation. Ring that notification bell. And if you want to support this work directly, send a super thanks. You're not just tipping a creator, you're saying yes to more women learning to trust themselves again. Here's what you're going to get in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to give you the exact language for what you've been sensing. I'm going to show you 7 patterns that separate a man who's genuinely falling for an older woman from a man who's just passing time. I'm going to decode the psychology behind why these actions matter so much, especially to you, a woman with depth, with history, with standards that have been earned through experience. And most importantly, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do with this information, not to become suspicious or cold, but to become clear, to become protected, to become the kind of woman who can recognize real love when it arrives, because she knows exactly what fake love looks like. Number 1, he initiates conversation about your inner world, not just your availability. When a man is truly falling for an older woman, he doesn't just text you to ask what you're doing on Saturday night. That's logistics, that's scheduling, that's the minimum. What he does instead is this. He asks you questions about things that matter. Not surface level, how was your day, questions that he could ask anyone. He asks about your thoughts on something you mentioned a month ago. He circles back to something you were worried about and checks in on it. He says things like, I've been thinking about what you told me about your career. Are you still feeling uncertain about that direction? He remembers the subtext beneath your words. Here's what this looks like in real life. You mention, almost in passing, that you've been reevaluating what success means to you after years of chasing the conventional version. A week later, he sends you an article about a woman who made a radical career pivot at 52. He doesn't say, I thought of you. He just sends it with a note. This felt relevant. That's not a coincidence. That's a man whose mind is returning to you when you're not in front of him. That's a man building a map of your interior landscape because he's planning to stay in it. The psychology here is crucial, and this is where it gets tricky. Men who are just passing time ask about your exterior, your schedule, your body, your availability, your logistical fit into their life. But a man who is actually falling for an older woman, a woman with substance, with history, with a self that exists independently of him, he realizes quickly that the real prize is access to your mind. He wants to know what you think, what you want, what you're afraid of, what you've learned, what you refuse to compromise on anymore. Why? Because a woman your age isn't impressed by surface charm. You've seen it all. You know the difference between words and action. So if he's going to keep you, he has to go deeper. He has to make you feel seen, not just desired. He has to prove that he's interested in the real you, the one that exists beyond the bedroom and the dinner date. This hits older women in a specific way. You've spent years, maybe a lifetime, being passed over for younger women. You've watched men choose surface over substance. You've been told, in 1,000 small ways, that your depth is actually a burden, that your experience is actually cynicism, that your standards are actually too high. So, when a man finally asks about your inner world, when he remembers what matters to you, when he cares about your thoughts, it feels like coming home. It feels like being chosen for the right reasons. And that can be dangerous because it can make you want to trust him before he's earned it. Here's what you need to do. When he starts asking these deeper questions, don't just feel flattered. Listen. Does he actually remember what you tell him? Or does he ask the same question twice? Does he follow up on what you shared? Or does he just move on to the next conversation? Real interest shows up in follow-through. A man who is genuinely interested in your inner world will reference things you told him weeks or months ago. He'll ask follow-up questions. He'll remember the details that matter to you. And critically, he'll do this consistently, not just when he's trying to win you back after he's been distant. What you're listening for is, does he make you feel interesting, or does he make you feel like a supporting character in his life? Real love means you feel like the protagonist. You're not waiting for him to circle back to you. He's circling back. You're not hoping he remembers. He remembers. And if he's not doing this consistently, if he only asks about your inner world when you're already upset with him, or when he wants something, then he's not falling. He's managing. And there's a massive difference. You might hear him say things like, "You know how I am? I'm not good at remembering details." Or, "I'm not really a phone person." But you know I care." But here's what I need you to understand. A man who is truly falling for an older woman finds a way. He might not be a phone person in general, but he'll call you because you matter. He might not remember details about most people, but he'll remember yours because they mean something to him. This isn't about being demanding. It's about being clear. If his care is conditional on his personality type, it's not really care. It's convenience. This doesn't mean you're weak for wanting this kind of attention. It doesn't mean you're too needy for expecting a man who is claiming to fall for you to actually remember you. It means someone is leveraging your loneliness, that thing that comes with age and fewer options and the fear that you've missed your window, and turning it into permission to half show up. Don't let him. Number 2, he initiates plans and follows through without you having to remind him. This one is simple, but it's everything. When a man is genuinely falling for an older woman, he doesn't wait for you to suggest what you should do together. He initiates, not occasionally, consistently. He texts you on a Tuesday morning with a plan for Saturday. He remembers something you mentioned wanting to do, and he makes the reservation. He doesn't wait until Thursday night and ask, "So what do you want to do this weekend?" That's lazy. That's putting the emotional labor on you. But here's the deeper part. He follows through. He doesn't cancel last minute. He doesn't have to reschedule. He doesn't leave you hanging. When he says he'll be there at 7, he's there at 6:50. When he says he's made a reservation, you get to the restaurant and your table is waiting. These seem like small things, but to an older woman, they're everything. Because you've lived long enough to know that consistency is love. You can't lie about it. You can't perform it. You either show up or you don't. Let me paint the picture. You've been looking forward to dinner all week. He suggested it. He chose the restaurant based on something you mentioned loving. He told you he'd pick you up at 7. When 7 comes, he's there. Not at 7:15 with a vague excuse about traffic. Not texting you that something came up and could you meet him there instead. He's there. And when you sit down, he puts his phone away. He asks you questions and actually listens to the answers. He's not distracted. He's not checking the time. He's present because you're worth being present for. The psychology of this is fascinating, and it's specifically why it matters with an older woman. By the time you reach this age, you've likely spent years with men who had to be reminded, who needed you to plan, who were too busy to think ahead. You've probably internalized that this is normal, that men are just like this, that asking for planning and follow-through is asking for too much. But here's the truth. A man who is genuinely interested in you will want to plan. He'll want to be the one who shows up. Why? Because it gives him access to you. Because planning means he gets to think about you in advance. Because showing up means he gets to see your face light up when he walks in. And this is specifically important for older women because you've been trained to be grateful for the bare minimum. You've been told that men aren't good at planning, or don't think ahead, or are just wired differently. But what that really means is, those men didn't prioritize you enough to change their wiring. A man who is falling for an older woman, a woman who has options, a woman who has standards, he learns to prioritize. He learns to plan. He learns to follow through, because losing you is a real possibility, and he knows it. What you need to watch for. In the beginning, does he plan most of your dates, or are you doing the emotional labor of suggesting, organizing, and hoping he'll show up? Does he follow through on small promises? Not just the big ones. When he says he'll call you tomorrow, does he? When he says he wants to take you to that restaurant you mentioned, does he actually make the reservation? Or does he just say it and wait for you to do it? The men worth your time will prove themselves in the small consistencies. The everyday showing up, the Tuesday night text about Saturday's plans, the follow-through that requires no reminding. If you find yourself texting him to confirm plans he made, or if you're the one suggesting what you should do, or if you're making reservations and then hoping he'll actually come, stop. This is not love. This is you doing the work of a relationship while he enjoys the benefits. And here's what he might say when you try to talk about this. You're so independent, I thought you liked planning things. Or, I'm not good with details, you know that. Or, why do we have to overthink this? Can't we just be spontaneous? But what he's really saying is, I don't care enough to change my behavior for you. A man who is truly falling for an older woman will want to be the one who plans. He'll want to be the one who creates certainty in her life, because her peace matters to him. And if he's not doing that, if you're still carrying the mental load of the relationship, then he's not falling. He's coasting. He's taking advantage of your nurturing nature and your tendency to fill in the gaps that he should be filling. This doesn't mean you're wrong for wanting a man who plans. It doesn't mean you're expecting too much. It means someone is counting on your standards being low enough to accept his inconsistency. Don't let that be you. Number 3, he introduces you to his world. Friends, family, on work people, without you asking. This is one of the biggest tells, and most women miss it completely. When a man is genuinely falling for an older woman, he doesn't keep her compartmentalized. He doesn't have you in one box and his real life in another. He brings you into his world. He introduces you to his friends, not as someone I'm dating, but as someone who matters. He wants his people to know you. He invites you to things with his family. He mentions you at work. He's not hiding you. He's claiming you. Here's what this looks like in practice. His best friend texts him to hang out, and instead of going alone, he invites you. He has a work event coming up, and he asks if you'd like to come. He's planning a trip home to see his family, and he casually mentions that he wants you to meet them. Not one day or eventually. Soon. And it's because he's already imagining you as part of the fabric of his life. He's not waiting for you to prove yourself. He's already decided that you belong there. The psychology here is profound, and it's where the real stakes live. When a man introduces a woman to his inner circle, he's doing something hugely vulnerable. He's saying to his people, "This woman matters to me. She's not a phase. She's not just someone I'm sleeping with." He's opening himself up to commentary, to their opinions, to the possibility that they might not like her, or that she might see parts of him he usually keeps hidden. A man who does this is taking a real risk. He's investing in being seen with you, and that's not something he does casually. For an older woman, this hits particularly hard because you've been invisible for so long. You've been the woman men date in secret, the one who meets them in the afternoon, the one they don't introduce to their friends because she's not wife material, or because she doesn't fit their life narrative. So when a man brings you into his world, when he claims you publicly, even in small ways like mentioning you to his co-workers, it feels like a revolution. It feels like being chosen. It feels like finally being worthy of being seen. But here's where you need to stay clear. Is he introducing you gradually and naturally, or is he doing it all at once? A man who is genuinely falling will bring you into his world in stages. He'll introduce you to one friend at a time. He'll talk about his family for a while before suggesting a visit. But a man who is love bombing, or worse, a man who is trying to create the appearance of commitment while actually being commitment phobic, might introduce you to everyone all at once, create this intense feeling of being in, and then disappear. He's not building, he's performing. He's creating the illusion of intimacy without actually creating intimacy. What you're looking for, is he consistently mentioning you in his daily life? Or does he only do this when he wants something from you or when you're pulling away? Does he actually follow through on introducing you? Or does he say, "I want to introduce you to my friends," and then it never happens? Real integration into someone's world doesn't stall out. It doesn't require you to ask repeatedly. It happens naturally because he's already made the decision that you belong there. He might say things like, "My friends are kind of a lot right now," or "I want to introduce you when things are less crazy at work," or "I know my family can be intense. I want to prepare you." And maybe some of this is true. But also, if he's falling for you, he'll make it happen. He won't wait for the perfect moment. He'll just do it because having you meet his people matters more than any excuse. A man who is genuinely falling for an older woman wants to claim her. He wants his world to know that she exists. He wants to be seen with her. And if he's keeping you separate, if his friends don't know you, if his family hasn't heard about you, if you're a secret he keeps, then you're not being chosen. You're being hidden And there's a massive difference between the two. This doesn't mean you're not good enough to meet his people. No, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means someone is keeping his options open. It means you're not the woman he's introducing to the world. You're the woman he's keeping in the wings. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. I need you to understand something crucial right now. Stop for a moment and really hear this. The patterns we're talking about, initiation, follow-through, integration into his world, they're not about grand gestures. They're not about flowers or fancy dates or words that sound good in the moment. They're about one thing: consistency. A man who is genuinely falling for an older woman will be consistent. Not perfect, not never disappointing, but consistent. He'll show up the same way on a Tuesday as he does on Saturday. He'll prioritize you when things are good and also when things are hard. He'll be the same person in front of his friends as he is when you're alone. But here's what confuses so many women. There's a specific kind of man who understands that older women are looking for consistency, so he performs consistency. He's very reliable in the beginning. He shows up on time. He initiates contact. He introduces you to people. He creates this feeling of safety and stability. And then, once he's convinced you that he's the real deal, he slowly pulls back. The initiations become less frequent. The follow-through becomes sporadic. He's busier than usual. And by the time you notice the shift, you've already bonded. You've already believed in the story he was telling. This isn't about blaming you. This is about awareness. This is about understanding that there's a specific mechanism at play. And it works on good women, especially older women, because you want to believe in consistency. You're tired of chaos. You want peace. You want someone stable. So when a man performs stability, you relax into it. And that's the exact moment he's been waiting for. The deeper work is this. Don't wait until he disappears to check for consistency. Check now, right now, in this early stage when he's still trying to impress you. Is he initiating or are you? Is he following through or is he flaking? Is he integrating you into his life or is he keeping you separate? The answers you get right now are the truest answers you'll ever get from him, because he's not yet confident that he has you. Once he is, the performance can stop. Number 4. He respects your boundaries without testing them. When a man is genuinely falling for an older woman, he doesn't view her boundaries as obstacles to overcome. He views them as information. You tell him something matters to you, and he believes you. You tell him you need space, and he gives it to you, not begrudgingly, but because he trusts that you know what you need. He doesn't argue with your boundaries. He doesn't test them. He doesn't slowly push against them to see where they'll break. He respects them. Here's what this looks like. You tell him you're not interested in meeting his family for at least 6 months. He says okay, and never mentions it again until you bring it up. You tell him you need 1 night a week to yourself, no exceptions. He plans his week around that. You say you're not comfortable with a particular topic or particular behavior, and he stops. Not gradually, not, but why? He just stops because you asked him to. Hi, this is huge, and I want you to really understand why. A boundary is an act of self-love. It's you saying, this is where I end and the world begins. This is what I will and won't accept. And when a man respects that without argument, he's doing something radical. He's saying, your comfort matters more to me than my preference. He's saying, I trust you to know yourself. He's saying, your peace is worth the sacrifice I'm making. For older women, boundaries are usually hard won. You've spent decades learning to say no to things that don't serve you. You've learned, often the hard way, that what you accept in the beginning sets the tone for the entire relationship. You know that a man who pushes your boundaries in month 1 will be pushing them in year 3. So when a man respects your boundaries without question, It feels like a miracle. It feels like he actually sees you, like he actually values you enough to honor what matters to you. But here's where I need you to be careful. There are men who respect boundaries in the beginning as part of their strategy. They're testing you, actually. They're being respectful to build your trust, to lower your defenses, so that later they can slowly push against those boundaries. They'll plant seeds. I know you said you wanted to take things slow, but don't you think we're being a little rigid? Or, you said you didn't want to talk about the future, but that feels like you're avoiding something. Or, I respect your space, but I'm starting to feel like you don't want to be close. The difference between a man who respects your boundaries and a man who respects them strategically is consistency over time. In the beginning, they look the same. But over months and years, the genuine man will continue to respect them. The strategic man will start negotiating them. He'll create situations where your boundary is inconvenient for him, and suddenly it becomes a point of contention. He'll reframe your boundary as a problem to solve rather than a request to honor. What you're looking for: does he respect your boundaries in private and public? Does he honor them when it's convenient and also when it costs him something? Does he never bring up a boundary you've set? Or does he subtly challenge it? And most importantly, does he respect your boundaries about other people, or does he only respect boundaries about him? A man who is genuinely falling will be the same way with everyone. He won't gossip about your friend's relationship issues, even though you told him not to. He won't slip up and tell your secret to his brother. He understands that your word is trustworthy, and he extends that same courtesy to others. He might say things like, "I respect your boundaries, but I'm worried that you're closing me out," or, "Your space is good, but I need you to also make me feel important," or, "I'm trying to honor what you asked, but it's hard for me." And look, some of this might even be true. But here's what I need you to understand. Your boundary is not his responsibility to make easy. Your boundary is not a problem for him to solve. Your boundary is a request, and he either honors it or he doesn't. If he honors it while sighing about how hard it is, he's not actually honoring it. He's resenting you for it. And that's not love. A man who is genuinely falling for an older woman will be relieved by her boundaries. Why? Because boundaries create safety. They create clarity. They create a container where real intimacy can happen. A man who understands this will lean into your boundaries, not fight them. He'll see them as your way of saying, "I take this seriously," and he'll meet you there. This doesn't mean you're asking for too much by having boundaries. It doesn't mean you're cold or closed off. It means someone is testing your limits to see how much you'll sacrifice for the illusion of his love. Don't become someone smaller to fit into his comfort zone. Number 5. He shows genuine curiosity about your past without needing to control it. This is subtle, but it's profound. When a man is genuinely falling for an older woman, he wants to know her history, not to judge it, not to change it, not to prove that his love is stronger than anything she's experienced before. He wants to know it because it shaped her. It made her who she is. And he's interested in all of her, not just the parts that are convenient to him. Here's what this looks like in action. You mention an ex, and instead of getting defensive or competitive, he asks about it. "What was that relationship like for you?" Or, "I sense that time in your life was hard. Do you want to talk about it?" Or, "I'm curious how that experience changed you." He's asking questions to understand you, not to compete with your past or to prove that he's better. And crucially, he doesn't use your past against you. He doesn't say things like, "Well, after all those failed relationships, You should be grateful I'm here. Or, your exes treated you badly, so be careful not to push me away too. Or, you have a pattern of choosing the wrong men. He's not positioning himself as the hero who finally gets you right. He's positioning himself as someone who wants to understand the journey that brought you here. The psychology of this is important, especially for older women. By your age, you have a history. You have exes. You have relationships that didn't work out. You probably have wounds from how those relationships ended, or how those men treated you. And what happens in a lot of cases is that men use that history against you. They tell you that you're damaged or broken, or that you have baggage. They use your past failures to make you feel grateful for their presence. They position themselves as the redemption story. But a man who is genuinely falling for an older woman doesn't do this. He understands that your past doesn't make you less. It makes you more. You've survived. You've learned. You've become someone who can recognize bullshit because you've experienced it. Your history isn't something to overcome. It's something to respect. What you're listening for. When you share something vulnerable about your past, does he listen without judgment? Does he ask follow-up questions that show he's trying to understand? Or does he minimize your experience? Does he immediately start talking about his own past, centering himself rather than understanding you? Does he weaponize your history later when he's angry? Does he compare you to your exes in a way that's meant to make him look better? Real curiosity about your past is different from false curiosity. False curiosity is asking questions but not really listening to the answers. It's asking so he can understand how to manipulate you better, what triggers he can use. Real curiosity is asking because he genuinely wants to know you. He remembers what you told him. He asks follow-up questions months later. He treats your past with reverence rather than judgment. He might say things like, "I know that relationship did a number on you," or, "Your exes really didn't deserve you," or, "I'm so glad you're not like those women who are bitter about their past." But if he's saying these things, he's not actually curious about your past. He's using your past to make himself look good by comparison. Real curiosity doesn't come with a judgment. It doesn't come with positioning himself as better. It just comes with genuine desire to understand you. A man who is genuinely falling for an older woman will be interested in all of her timeline, not just the parts that serve him. He'll want to know about your pain, your triumph, your mistakes, your wisdom, because all of that is you. And if he's not interested in all of you, if he only wants the version of you that orbits around him, then he's not falling for you. He's falling for the idea of you. This doesn't mean your past is perfect or that you didn't make mistakes. It doesn't mean you should have to explain or justify every relationship that didn't work out. It means someone is genuinely interested in understanding the woman you've become, not collecting information he can use against you later. And that's a rare thing. Guard it carefully. Number 6. He admits when he's wrong without needing you to accept an apology that isn't real. This is where the real men separate from the boys playing house. When a man is genuinely falling for an older woman, he can admit when he's wrong. Not the surface level, "I'm sorry you feel that way" apology. The real one. "I was wrong. Here's what I did. Here's how I can see it hurt you. Here's what I'm going to do differently." And then, most importantly, he actually does it differently. This matters so much with older women because you've spent decades listening to non-apologies. You've heard, "I'm sorry you're upset," when what you needed was, "I'm sorry I did that." You've watched men apologize and then repeat the exact same behavior a week later, acting like the apology somehow erased the action. No, you've learned that words without follow-through are just noise. So, when a man actually admits he was wrong, changes his behavior, and doesn't bring it back up as a weapon later. It feels revolutionary. It feels like he actually respects you. Here's what this looks like in real life. You tell him something he did hurt you. Instead of defending himself or making excuses or turning it around to be about his feelings, he just listens. He might say, "Tell me more about how that affected you." He lets you fully express it without interrupting. And then he says something like, "You're right. I wasn't thinking about your perspective. That was unfair." And he doesn't ask for forgiveness. He just changes. The next time he's in a similar situation, he handles it differently because he actually heard you and actually cares that he hurt you. The psychology here is about maturity and respect. When a man can admit he's wrong, he's doing something huge. He's putting your experience above his ego. He's saying, "My need to be right is less important than your need to be heard and respected." This is not something immature men can do. This requires emotional development. This requires actual love, because defending your ego is always easier than admitting you messed up. For older women, this hits deeply because you've usually given up on this. You've made peace with men who can't apologize, who see any admission of wrongdoing as weakness. So, when a man can actually do it, when he can look you in the eye and say, "I was wrong," it's almost shocking. It feels like a miracle. Like you finally found someone who can actually grow with you. But here's where you need to be careful. There are men who can fake this. They'll say, "I'm sorry, you're right," and sound like they mean it, but then nothing changes. The same argument happens again in 6 months, or he apologizes in the moment and then brings it back up later, using it against you. "I already apologized for that. Why do you keep bringing it up?" He's using the apology as a shield rather than as a genuine attempt to change. What you're looking for: when he apologizes, does his behavior actually change? Not immediately and then regress, but sustained change. Do you have to bring up the same issue more than once? If you do, that's not an apology. That's theater. Real apologies result in real change. Because a man who is genuinely falling understands that losing you would be worse than the discomfort of changing his behavior. Also, does he apologize for big things and little things? Or does he only apologize for the things that might make you leave? A man who only apologizes when the relationship is threatened isn't actually sorry. He's sorry he got caught. He's sorry you're upset, but he's not sorry for what he did. He might say things like, "I already said I'm sorry. What more do you want from me?" Or, "I don't like dwelling on the past. Can't we just move forward?" Or, "You're being too sensitive about this. Most women wouldn't care." But what he's really doing is dismissing your experience and refusing to actually change. And that's not love. That's someone trying to avoid the work of being better. A man who is genuinely falling for an older woman will want to be the kind of man you deserve. He'll see your feedback not as criticism, but as information about how to love you better. And he'll actually use that information. He'll change because you're worth changing for. This doesn't mean you have to forgive every mistake. It doesn't mean you have to accept apologies that don't feel genuine. It means someone is actually trying, and you can tell because the results show it. The behavior changes. The same patterns don't keep repeating. He's not asking you to be the therapist anymore. He's doing the work. Number 7, he talks about the future with you in it, specifically and without backtracking. This is the final tell, and it's the one that separates genuine falling from performance. When a man is truly falling for an older woman, he talks about the future. Not vaguely, specifically. He says things like, "Next summer I want to take you to that place you mentioned," or, "I've been thinking about how our schedules could work if we moved in together someday," or, I want to meet your family. When do you think that would work? He's building a timeline. He's picturing a future where you're in it. And crucially, he doesn't backtrack on these statements. He doesn't say, eventually, and then change it to maybe someday, and then change it to, I don't know about the future. He commits to a vision, and he builds toward it. He brings up the future on his own. He doesn't wait for you to ask where this is going. He's already decided that it's going somewhere, and he wants you to know that. Here's what this sounds like. I've been thinking about what life could look like for us in a year. Or, I want to show you my hometown. I think you'd love it there. Or, someday I want to wake up next to you every day. Or, I've been imagining us getting older together. These aren't hypothetical statements. These are statements of intention. They're him telling you that he can see a future with you in it, and he's excited about it. The psychology here is about vision and commitment. When a man talks about the future with you in it, he's allowing himself to be vulnerable. He's putting himself out there in a way that can be rejected. What if you don't want that future? What if you decide you're not compatible after all? He's taking that risk by telling you that he can see a future with you. And a man who does this is a man who is genuinely falling, because it's easier to keep things vague and uncommitted. It's harder to say, I want a future with you. For older women, this is particularly powerful because you might have thought your window for future talk had closed. You might have believed that at your age, men were looking for something casual, something easy, something that didn't require commitment. So when a man not only talks about the future, but specifically includes you in it, it can feel like a validation that you're not too old, that someone still wants to build something with you, that your best years aren't behind you. But here's where it gets tricky. There are men who will talk about the future with you in it as a way to deepen your bond without actually committing to it. They'll say things like, I love imagining a future with you. And you'll feel like he's committed. But then, when you ask for specifics, okay, so when do you think we could move in together? He backs away. He'll say, I don't like to plan too far ahead, or let's just see where it goes, or I'm not ready to talk about timeline yet. He was painting a picture without actually offering you a destination. What you're listening for, is his future talk specific or vague? Does he name actual things, moving in, meeting family, traveling together? Or does he keep it abstract? Someday, eventually, when the time is right. Does he bring up the future on his own, or does he only do it when you're asking about the relationship? And when you respond to his future talk by asking for specifics, does he lean in or does he back away? Yeah, and real commitment to a future means a man can articulate timelines. I'd like to move in together within 2 years. I want to meet your family within 6 months. I'm imagining us getting married eventually. I think that matters to me. He's not just painting pictures, he's building a map, and he's inviting you to follow it. He might say things like, I never think about the future. It stresses me out. Or, I don't like making plans because I like to be spontaneous. Or, why do we have to talk about this? Can't we just be in the moment? But what he's really saying is, I don't want to commit to having you in my future, but I want you to stay attached to the idea of it. He's keeping you on the line without actually giving you a line to follow. A man who is genuinely falling for an older woman will want her to know that she's in his future. He'll want her to trust that he's building towards something real, not just playing house until something better comes along. And he'll be willing to be specific about it. He'll put it in words that can't be misinterpreted. He'll give you something real to hold on to. This doesn't mean he has to propose tomorrow or have it all figured out. It doesn't mean you have to have identical timelines. It means he's actually thinking about a future with you, and he's comfortable telling you about it. He's not keeping his options open. He's not hedging his bets. He's saying, you matter enough to imagine a future with you in it. Here's what I need you to know as we come to the end of this. All 7 of these signs, initiation, follow-through, integration, boundary respect, genuine curiosity, real apologies, and future vision. They're not about grand romantic gestures. They're not about flowers or jewelry or words that sound good in movies. They're about something far more valuable, consistency. They're about a man who shows up the same way whether you're in crisis or celebrating, whether things are easy or hard, whether he's with you or thinking about you alone in his car. And here's the thing about consistency. It can't be faked forever. A man can perform it for a month, maybe 2, maybe even 3 if he's really committed to the act. But eventually the performance cracks. A man who doesn't actually care about your inner world will get bored asking about it. A man who's just passing time will stop initiating plans. A man who never wanted to claim you will stop introducing you to people. The mask slips, and when it does, you'll see the truth. So use this time now, this moment when he's still trying, to pay attention. Don't wait until he disappears to notice that he never really initiated. Don't wait until you're heartbroken to realize that he never included you in his life. Don't wait until you're crying to understand that his apologies were never real. Watch now. Listen now. Notice the patterns now. Because the man you see in these early days is often the man you'll see for the rest of the relationship. He might get better if he's already a good man trying to be great, but he's not going to become a different person. That leopard is not changing his spots. And I know that's not what you want to hear. I know you want to believe that if you love him enough, he'll change. That if you show him how valuable you are, he'll prioritize you. That if you're patient enough, he'll eventually become the man you need him to be. But you've lived long enough to know that that's not how it works. Change comes from a man's own desire to be better, not from a woman's hope that he will be. So here's what I'm asking you to do. As you're getting to know this man, use these 7 signs as your actual checklist. Not in a way that's cold or cynical, but in a way that's protective. Does he initiate, or does he follow through, or do you have to remind him? Does he bring you into his world, or does he keep you compartmentalized? Does he respect your boundaries, or does he test them? Is he genuinely curious about your history, or does he judge it? Can he admit when he's wrong, or does he make excuses? Can he talk about a future with you, or does he keep it vague? If the answer to all of those questions is yes, if he's showing up as a man who is genuinely falling, then you have something worth protecting. Then you have someone worth your time. Then you have a man who deserves your energy and your heart because he's actually putting in the work to honor both of those things. But if you're noticing that he's only showing up in some of these ways, or if he's showing up and then backing away, or if you're waiting for him to arrive but he's still not there, then you need to hear this. You're not crazy for noticing. You're not asking for too much. You're not being unrealistic or cynical or too old to believe in love. You're reading the truth of what's in front of you, and that intuition is your superpower. Trust it. The most important relationship in your life is the one you have with yourself. And that relationship is built on trust. Trust that you know what you need. Trust that you can handle being alone rather than being with someone who doesn't fully show up. Trust that your peace matters more than any man's company. Trust that you'd rather be single than be with someone who keeps you guessing. That's not closed off. That's clear. That's the kind of clarity that real love actually requires. So here's my final message to you. Pay attention to his actions, not his words, not his potential, not your hope that he'll change. His actions. Does he do what he says he'll do? Does he make space for you? Does he choose you? Over and over again, does he choose you? If yes, not, then you're with someone worth staying for. If no, if you're waiting and hoping and second-guessing yourself, then you need to make a choice. Not because you're not lovable, not because you don't deserve better, but because you deserve someone who doesn't require you to read between the lines, someone whose love is so clear that you never have to wonder. That man exists, and you're worth waiting for him. Before you go, I want to say this. If this video gave language to something you've been feeling, like it for me, comment below with one word, the sign that woke you up, the moment you recognized yourself in this video. Write it down, say it out loud, and then share this with a woman in your life who needs to hear it too, because she's probably sitting with the same confusion you've been sitting with. And your voice might be the thing that finally helps her see clearly. Subscribe so you don't miss the videos that teach you discernment instead of desperation. Ring that notification bell. Send a super thanks if you want to support this work and help more women learn to trust themselves. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me with your story. And most importantly, thank you for being the kind of woman who's willing to do the work of protecting her own peace. You deserve someone who meets you there.